investments here in the Philippines with Chris Nelson of the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Great to see you, and good morning to all your viewers.
Okay, so Chris, I know you have a lot of activities lined up again this month and the next. One is about opportunities for business growth collaboration happening middle of June. Then you've got a BICEA, that's Britain in Southeast Asia virtual trade mission with a Kent Invicta Chamber at the end of June. What would you particularly like to bring awareness to this time around? What would be the main agenda?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mimi. Actually, also, we have our second virtual trade mission on the 18th of June. So we're very active in June. What we're going to highlight to everybody is the opportunities, particularly in our key sectors, food, drink, retail. And let me just make the point that we're very pleased to see that the Senate passed on third reading the Retail Trade Liberalization Act. So we're going to be focusing and highlighting that the Philippines is looking to move. And that's one of the things we want to also emphasize, the passage of the Retail Liberalization Act, also Public Service Act and Foreign Services Act. And these are the things we want to be able to discuss with British investors and to keep the momentum going forward. We've made this point before. This is the time to pass it. And we see much more boost to foreign direct investment if those three measures are passed.
You know, Chris, I was looking at the FDIs from the UK to the Philippines last year, a pandemic year, 2020. And apparently, I was shocked to see that your FDIs quadrupled to 13.1 billion year on year. I mean, how do you explain that? And I guess the more important question is that growth momentum, do you think that can be sustained this year?
Okay, so I think first of all, the explanation is that the focus the UK is putting on trade and investment. Obviously, as you know, we finally exited from the EU, and we've been, obviously, the government and the Department of International Trade has been very active. We have the UK Prosperity Fund, which is very focused on technology and business support. And the Philippines is a key business partner. So can we keep the momentum going? Yes, I think we can. However, let me bring it back and make the same point. I'm afraid to iterate. Let's pass those measures because also that will add to the momentum. We have a lot of interest in our key sectors: food, drink, retail, business outsourcing, advanced machinery. And we work closely with the Department of International Trade. So yes, it can be continued. And I think it's part of the drive that the UK is looking at across the world, and Southeast Asia, may I say, is a key focus. They've signed agreements with Vietnam and Singapore, and obviously we want to see the Philippines as a key focus amongst UK companies.
They did sign bilateral trade agreements with Vietnam and Singapore. When do you see the one for the Philippines coming?
Look, that's very hard to predict, actually, but I do think that the UK has been very supportive. It works closely with the Department of Trade Investment here, Secretary Lopez. We have great relationships. They do, obviously, we work extensively with them in the UK. They actually worked in doing the Make It Happen campaign. One of the activities that we're doing on the 15th with the Institute of Corporate Directors, we're also getting support out of the Trade and Investment Center there, Michelle Sanchez. So look, I'm not obviously that one arranging those, but obviously if you look at the Chamber and the work we're doing, we are constantly promoting the Philippines in the UK. We want the Philippines to be not just for companies to invest in the Philippines, but to be their gateway and entry to Southeast Asia. And I think that's very important, particularly to get the Philippine economy to accelerate.
You mentioned some sectors earlier of strong interest for UK businesses, food and drinks, retail. Would agri be a strong contender? Because I know the Chamber has been trying to work hard to connect, pork suppliers rather, to Manila to help us solve our African swine fever crisis. I also know the Chamber recently received an inquiry regarding the possible lifting of poultry imports from the UK. What's the latest on this? Any substantial development we're expecting on the food security front?
Yes, I think both ways, actually. So first of all, I just highlight that actually the Philippines exports agri products to the UK, and that's been highlighted by our trade envoy, Richard Graham.
Mhm.
The second is obviously they issued a new EO on the pork supply. It's now going to be the imports is 250 metric tons. We're working closely. We have a number of interested suppliers. The key is, I think, in the first 3 months, obviously, there has a preferential tariff rate. We work closely there with the Agriculture and Horticultural Board, so I'd expect quick action. And there are many suppliers who are looking at that. On the poultry side, there is currently a temporary ban because, of course, we have Asian in some parts of the UK. But obviously, the embassy and the agricultural in the UK would be happy to discuss. And let's not forget, we had a very successful webinar with the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Dar. So yes, expect to see movement there. And we as the Chamber are constantly working with the Agriculture and Horticultural Board, as with contacts here, such as Pamby. We do well with the director there, Jem Abalada. And therefore, yes, expect to see that. And expect to see a growth both ways. It's a key sector, the agri sector, and we can certainly assist.
Mm-hmm. Chris, you mentioned about the interested pork suppliers from the UK the last time we spoke. Could you share more details? How many pork suppliers are actually interested? If you could name drop some of them, perhaps.
Well, actually, unfortunately, I can't name drop today, but what I can tell you is there are multiple suppliers interested. And I think the way to look at this is twofold. The first is, of course, we wish to assist because obviously pork, as we know, has been affected by the African swine flu. That's led, of course, to a shortage of pork. That's also led to, of course, prices spiking. And so therefore, that would be an assistance. But we're also looking to develop through our contacts in the Agriculture and Horticultural Board a longer-term relationship. And I think that's an important factor. The Chamber is here looking to build, along with the British Embassy and Department of International Trade, long-term relationships. Yes, there is a short-term need, but the key we see is to have companies here on the long term. And there now are over 200 British companies operating in the Philippines, and we'd like to see that grow and continue.
So how soon before we get UK pork imported here in the Philippines?
Well, I would expect, based on the way the year is written, I would anticipate that we'd hope to get something moving within the next 3 months, because that's obviously keenly linked. We hope so. So I sincerely hope we're going to push from our side, and we certainly would like to see and help and assist in that. And I think, I'd like to just highlight the fact that there is a significant interest, not just in agri, but in the Philippines from the UK. And I think it's good to say that we've sustained that interest, despite obviously the pressures of the pandemic for both countries. And of course, you highlighted it as well. The UK is particularly interested in developing growth in trade and investment now in its post-Brexit era, and Southeast Asia is a key focus area.
So I was going to talk about that, the bigger picture, Chris, because there was a European think tank, it's called the Resolution Foundation, that's actually been urging Britain to address problems linked to Brexit on top of, COVID-19. This will include a transition to a net zero carbon economy, your aging population, technological changes. And it was saying that if you don't address these concerns, you risk seeing your economic performance reduced closer to a struggling Italy than the powerhouse Germany. Without the proper plans, Britain is said to be looking at its slowest productivity growth in over 120 years. So clearly there is a need for Britain to shift some of its focus to take a new approach. How do you think this new approach that the UK is taking will affect its trading partners like the Philippines?
Well, I think in the case of the Philippines, positively. But let me also link it to action from here. And I do want to keep on reiterating the measure that it's a partnership. And in that partnership, we've worked and we've stressed the need to further open up the Philippine economy. This is the right time. We're very pleased to see that the Senate did pass the third reading of the retail trade. It's now got to be reconciled with the House version. We'd like to see movement on the public services and foreign investment. And why do I say this is because we wish to highlight to companies and obviously our partners, such as the Embassy and Department of International Trade, the movements we're getting, and working closely, by the way, with the Embassy and other chambers on this matter. So I think what you should see is that the Philippines, along with Southeast Asia, is a key focus area. The UK has got very good skills that can complement. For example, we know that there's discussions going on renewable energy. That was actually mentioned by Secretary Dominguez between the two countries. We're obviously a leader in terms of fintech and other activities. So I think that the UK stands to look at countries in Southeast Asia, and the Philippines needs to be there. You have great talents here. We've highlighted that. We want to make the Philippines